First grade physical science, does it sink or does it float? And we will be talking about density. First off, what is density? According to an object's density determines whether it will sink or float in the water or any other liquid substance. The facts are, if the object is less dense, the object will float. If the object is more dense, it will sink. Now, it does not depend on the weight, which is commonly misunderstood. It all depends on the molecules that are found inside of the object. Some vocabulary and keywords for this lesson. Molecules are tiny particles in the object. Dense or density, it determines how it is put together and compacted the molecules are. Vary, which is the difference between the two, and we're going to use our common sense and our logic to make sense of why an object will sink and why an object will float. Some fun facts about density. Liquids vary in density as well. Some examples are oil, water, and corn syrup, which will have different bases. In this picture, the corn syrup will sink because of low density. The water stays in the middle, and last, the oil rises to the top because it is the lightest. When you mix the three liquids together, you will find that all of them have different bases. Fun facts continued. The shape of the object causes it to either sink or to float. An example would be a ball of clay or Play-Doh will sink right away, but once you flatten it into a raft-like object, it will float. Open-air objects will float, for example, a rubber ducky or bath toys. Will it sink or float? So this is where we're going to use our experiment to see whether these objects will sink or float. A paperclip, we found, will float because it is less dense than any of the other objects. A fork will not float because it is more dense and it will sink to the bottom. The scissors, we found that the scissors are both, that it depends on the material it's made out of. Metal will make it sink and plastic will make it float. A drinking straw is the same thing as the scissors, depending on how many molecules are in there and what is the density of the straw. If you have liquid inside the straw when you're drinking it, it will sink. When there is no liquid inside of it, it will float. A bottle of water, we have found, will float in the water. And last but not least, the baseball, we found that floats. Although we have learned that after the baseball is submerged in the water, after a few minutes, it will sink.